The real Doc Holliday will give you chills. Legendary of Tombstone. Doc Holliday is a legendary figure of the American Wild West, known for his sharp shooting, quick wit, and involvement in several famous gun battles. He was a man of many contradictions, a trained dentist who also lived the life of an outlaw. The legend of Doc Holliday has been the subject of many books, TV shows, and movies, with even songs being written about him. However, separating fact from fiction can be difficult when it comes to his story. Today, we will delve into the real life of Doc Holliday, exploring the events that shaped him and the legacy that he left behind. Get ready for a chilling look at the man behind the myth. Doc Holliday's birth name was John Henry Holliday, born on August 14, 1851 in Griffin, Georgia. His parents, Henry and Alice Holliday, were both fighters, with his father having fought in both the Mexican-American War and the American Civil War, and his mother fighting against tuberculosis. Holliday was of Scottish and English descent and had an adopted brother named Francisco. In 1864, his family moved to Valdosta, Georgia, where his mother sadly passed away due to the same illness that had plagued her for some time. Following her death, Holliday's father, Henry, married Rachel Martin. Holliday had a love for learning and studied a variety of subjects, including mathematics, history, and grammar in both Latin and French. He attended the Valdosta Institute before eventually traveling to Philadelphia to obtain a Doctor of Dental Surgery degree from the Pennsylvania College of Dental Surgery at just 20 years old. After completing his education, Holliday relocated to Atlanta to live with his uncle and joined forces with Arthur C. Ford, a fellow dentist. Holliday would often substitute for Ford when he was away from the practice. At 22 years old, Holliday became involved in a heated argument with a group of African American youth over the use of a swimming site in the Withlacoochee River. It is believed that Holliday fired a shotgun at the group, further fueling the tension between the races during this time. Doc Holliday's life had taken an unexpected turn after he was diagnosed with a deadly disease, tuberculosis, which had already claimed the lives of his mother and adopted brother. His doctor advised him to move to a warmer place to alleviate his symptoms, and so he set his sights on Dallas, Texas, located in the heart of the Wild West. Upon arriving in Dallas, Doc teamed up with Dr. John A. Seeger, and together they started building a reputation as a formidable dental team. Their skill and expertise earned them various accolades, including an award for the best set of artificial teeth and dental wear in 1874. Doc felt confident enough to start his independent practice in Dallas, but his health continued to suffer due to his persistent coughing spells caused by tuberculosis. Despite his skills as a dentist, Doc's practice struggled, and he began to look for alternative sources of income. He turned to gambling, seeing it as an easier way to make money. His newfound passion for gambling proved to be his downfall when he became involved in a gunfight, and his reputation suffered a severe blow. However, Doc was not one to give up, and he continued to persevere through his illness, determined to find a way to make a living and provide for himself. In 1875, he left behind his life in Dallas and embarked on a journey to Denver. Along the way, he took on the alias Tom Mackey and began working as a faro dealer. It wasn't long before he got into an altercation with a well-known gambler named Bud Ryan, leaving Ryan seriously injured with a knife wound. After a year in Denver, Doc continued his journey westward. In Cheyenne, he found work as a card dealer in a local saloon. He followed the gold rush to Deadwood and eventually made his way back to Denver, gambling all along the way. He continued to Kansas and eventually ended up in Breckenridge, Texas. It was there that he was shot and seriously injured, and he managed to recover and continue his journey. Doc eventually made his way to Fort Griffin, where he met a woman named Mary Catherine Horney. The two hit it off and eventually moved to Dodge City, where they posed as Dr. and Mrs. John H. Holliday. Although Doc began his dental practice there, he spent most of his time gambling. It was during this time that he became close friends with Wyatt Earp. One day, when Wyatt found himself outnumbered by some cowboys in a saloon, Doc drew his pistol on one of the cowboys and forced him to disarm. From that moment on, the two became inseparable friends. Holliday's reputation as a skilled card player and marksman continued to grow, and he eventually relocated to the city of Las Vegas with Horney. Although the hot springs in the area were said to be beneficial for tuberculosis patients, The harsh winters and restrictions on gambling led to Holliday's eventual return to Dodge City. During this time, a conflict erupted between the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway and the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad, both of which were claiming a right-of-way across the Royal Gorge, the only natural route through the Rockies. The dispute was ultimately resolved by the Treaty of Boston, and Holliday returned to Las Vegas to reunite with Horony. While the Earp brothers continued on to Prescott, Holliday opted to remain in the city as he found the gambling scene to be particularly lucrative. However, he eventually joined the Earps in Tombstone a year later, where he became embroiled in the violent and politically charged atmosphere of the town. In October of 1881, Virgil Earp was serving as the Deputy U.S. Marshal and Police Chief of Tombstone, a town known for its lawlessness and violent disputes between local cowboys and lawmen. Due to the constant threats against his life, Earp deputized Doc Holliday, who was known for his skills with a gun, to serve as his backup. During their time together, Holliday actively supported the Earps in their fight against the Cowboys, including participating in several gun battles, including the infamous shootout at Iron Springs. Although Holliday's actions were found to be within the law, he eventually had a falling out with Earp, leading him to leave Tombstone for Pueblo, Colorado in 1882. While in Pueblo, Holliday was arrested, but upon learning of his friend's situation, Earp used his connections to secure Holliday's release from jail. Despite their differences, the bond between Holliday and the Earps proved to be unbreakable, and they remained friends until Holliday's death in 1887. In the personal life of Doc Holliday, he was said to have been in a romantic relationship with a woman named Mary Catherine Horony Cummins, who was commonly known as Big Nose Kate. According to Kate, they were together and lived in Las Vegas, New Mexico, where Doc practiced as a dentist during the day and spent his nights gambling. However, their relationship was often tumultuous, and they would frequently argue and part ways. Despite their arguments, they would eventually reconcile and continue their relationship. However, their issues would inevitably resurface, causing them to once again go their separate ways. Despite the challenges they faced, it was said that Doc and Kate had a deep connection and a strong bond, with Kate being the only woman with whom he was known to have a romantic relationship. As Holliday spent more time in Tombstone, his relationship with Horony became strained, and they had a nasty fight. Unfortunately, his enemies exploited their troubles, and Horony was coerced into signing an affidavit that implicated Holliday in a robbery. However, she later confessed that she had been forced to sign the document against her will. As a result, the judge dismissed the charges against Holliday. After the incident, Holliday and Horony went their separate ways, and she left the town. Despite the therapeutic properties of the hot springs in the area, Holliday's tuberculosis continued to worsen, and he became addicted to alcohol. He found himself involved in a few more gunfights before his health deteriorated further. On November 8, 1887, he took his last breath in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. Despite his notorious reputation as a gambler and gunslinger, his intelligence and skill as a dentist, as well as his loyalty to his friends, cannot be denied. The legend of Doc Holliday continues to be a source of inspiration for many, and his life serves as a reminder of the wild and lawless days of the American West. Whether you see him as a hero or a villain, there's no denying that the real Doc Holliday will always give you chills. Goodbye, Doc Holliday.